This episode is dedicated to our Lord and Savior,
Brené Brown.
Have you ever been victimized by New Age spirituality?
We've been waiting for you. We've been waiting.
You're gonna want to listen up.
I'm Megan, an intuitive life coach and Reiki master.
I'm Ryan, a professional astrologer, and we want to show you what spirituality is by talking about what it is not.
Con artist.
Yes.
Snake oil salesman.
There are so many susceptible people out there.
And then they're tainted. They're ruined. They don't want to come back to spirituality.
We still have a lot to learn, and we will humble ourselves and learn, I think, every freaking day. This is Clairannoyance,
a podcast of spiritual interference.
Have you been rejected lately?
Megan got rejected this morning. Your garbage disposal is rejecting you.
Yeah,
Your internet's rejecting you.
My internet, we're 40 minutes behind, and I'm a punctual person, so that making me a little ornery.
Mm-hmm.
My different location swaps are happening. You got to lean into the rejection though, because rejection can, this is an opportunity. Of course, I'm a psycho who spins things into my advantage, because otherwise you're going to be on a train to Negativeville. But yeah.
Hate Negativeville. I don't love it there. I used to go all the time.
And the thing is, since I do this for a living, I've got to fish people. I'm so used to fishing people back. And so you recognize where you're at. Okay, I see where I'm at. And everything that's happened today, this is not a big deal. It's just enough to set the mood. It's to set the tone. But I recognize. So when you're in a spot, recognize where you're at, but don't accept it. You recognize it. You don't identify with it. You can accept what's happening to you later on. But right now, I'm not accepting that my garbage disposal is broken. It will be fixed. I didn't accept that this internet. We were gonna. Where you were like, let's re-record. No, we're doing it today. And I don't know anything about technology, but I was clicking angrily and praying.
One of the things I saw, some quote, I can't remember from who, but that said basically accept rejection and reject acceptance. And I was like, that'd be a cool little title.
I love that. Brené Brown, which I know I quote her all the time, but she had said, our Lord and Savior, Brené Brown.
Jesus Christ.
But she's got so much hot fire knowledge.
She does.
When you're trying to fit in, you're actually rejecting yourself, because then you're trying to, be a mold and be an inauthentic version of you. And when you let that little freak flag fly, that is the truest form of acceptance, even though you might be rejected by others.
It's so real, I feel like, right? Because then you're caring about what other people think in such a big way. If you're trying to fit in and be accepted, right?
Mm-hmm. Which is what we're so trained to do. You want to fit in. You don't want to be like that lonely loner that's just operating. Even there's always that rare exception, but you want to have friendship. You want to have that connection. But I want to be loved for the freak I am. I want to be celebrated for the weirdo that I am. And so our topic of conversation today, I go both in all ways.
No, same.
Accept me, reject me. Yeah, we're weirdos.
Yeah. That's why I think we discuss these topics that actually have no true point. I think it's no, they do, because there's so many interesting facets. And I think it's about tackling it and expanding consciousness here, considering these things in different ways. Truly, because I think there's so much to it, and I've had my own little revelations. It's truly meditating on this stuff. And
when's the last time you got rejected?
Well, see, and then it's what is the definition?
What is rejection?
Yeah, which I didn't look up a definition. Maybe I should literally look up how Webster defines it.
Well, because what's on par with rejection? What are the other synonyms of rejection?
Let me look. My favorite, for anyone who wants to know, I'm such a word geek. The best thesaurus out there is powerthesaurus.org,
Yes,
FYI. It's so good. They even have an app. Rejection, refusal, denial, repudiation, rebuff, dismissal,
Repudiation.
disapproval, yeah, veto, abandonment, disallowance, yeah. So exclusion, repulsion. Yeah, so it's a total like fuck you, get out of here, fuck off, don't want this. Like it's a hard no almost.
Mm-hmm.
But like I feel like rejection can feel like not like a no that's like a good, healthy boundary setting no or whatever. It feels like rejection has a more sinister like type of vibe to it. Like it feels a
Yeah.
little more negative, like a little bit more like
Mm-hmm.
I'm purposefully outcasting you.
You get out of here. We don't
Yeah.
want your kind around here. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
get the fuck out. GTFO, bitch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're othered. You're like kind of like made to feel like the rejection happens for a reason that has to do with you. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
versus like
Just like, hey, the club, we're at capacity. Sorry. Like that's like, hey, like no one's allowed in unless someone comes out. That's nice. But rejection is like, no, your friend can come in, but you, nay.
yeah.
We don't like those loafers.
Yeah.
Like,
That's what it feels like. As I
mm-hmm.
like literally kick off my loafers. I don't think you can actually call them loafers. I don't even think I know what a loafer looks like. Really? Like, but I do have these really weird like sandals I was wearing. Yeah, like I definitely think rejection is always associated or typically associated with like negative feelings, though, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Inadequacy makes you feel like
Ooh.
not good enough.
Well, because it's saying you're not, it can cue the you're not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not worthy. You can't sit with us. Oh, Regina George, Mean Girls, like, mm-mm.
Mm-hmm. And so like I like was really thinking about this and like how really, these are the two sides of the same coin. Like that's literally the only
Uh-huh.
way I could consider it. I was like, are they antonyms? I think so. They're kind of opposites, but they're so interconnected, right? And so then
Like north
acceptance.
south. You have
Mm-hmm.
to have one to have the other.
Yeah, right. And I feel like acceptance tends to at least like the more I like dove into this, the more like nuanced it got. But I feel like on the surface, like acceptance has a more positive connotation, right? Like
Of course
it's
it
like
does.
contentment.
Being content and be that I used to tell my clients, everyone would strive for happiness. And I was like, happiness is an emotion, and emotion is fleeting. You're setting yourself up for disappointment if you're striving for this emotion as emotions come and go. So then I was like, okay, we strive for being content. But I then have gotten into this weird thing with content, because when you're content, you're not pushing the needle forward. You're not, and the content, I feel like is the entrance to your comfort zone. And I'm someone who perpetually likes to stay uncomfortable in the realms of like challenging myself and experiencing personal growth. And with that, you've got to become real comfortable with rejection. There is no, that is part of this game, is fucking up, failing. And so when you said content, it was like, I used to tell people like, okay, this is what we're striving for. But now I've started to change that tune, because contentment is what keeps you in your comfort zone, and your comfort zone is what's going to waste the most valuable commodity we have, which is time. And then the next thing you know, you're 78 and you're realizing you haven't done anything with your life. Or you've let life move the needle instead of you. Hit a trigger right there.
Yeah, I feel like contentment feels like an okayness with not moving, I guess, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
definitely like you're accepting immobility or something. Like I'm
Oh,
accepting like
yes.
mediocrity.
Oh,
But yeah, no, that's gross. I don't think that that's a good thing. I've been trying to like sit here and view both of these ways as states of neutrality, because I don't think neutrality is necessarily contentment. And I feel
True.
like I think about like a big part of this is that we take both of these things very personally. And when we don't, when we're more neutral about, are we feeling accepted? Are we feeling rejected? Am I accepting that thing, or am I rejecting this thing, or whatever?
There's the
We
key.
we yeah, we can detach a little bit from it and be in a neutral space. I mainly mean because like in a sense, I think a contentment can help, or like I could imagine if somebody's life feels like they're just like freaking in chaos and they're spiraling or something, I would want to bring that person into a point of contentment with how they are.
Mm-hmm.
Like like how can you accept what is and just be content with it right now? Just sit with it right now. Just be okay with that right now, you know? Because I do think it's more of a neutral space. But I
I
just think
agree.
neutrality is so important. Like I feel like it's like you have to acknowledge something to accept it. Acceptance as a neutral space. It's just easier to move where you want to go when you're in a neutral space.
Well, because you're not attached to an outcome. So so that goes to the law of detachment. So if you are but that's a hard one.
Totally. Well, and it's sort of like the same as expectation, like releasing expectation,
Uh,
because it's like it's like rejection isn't the thing that's hurting you. It's the expectation that you had beforehand,
mhm.
you know? And like, so again, that's like the neutrality component for me. I feel like it's nice to feel accepted. It sucks to feel rejected, but those are situations. Those aren't people. Like
Yeah.
that's situational. So just accepting that, or accepting, yeah, I don't know. Viewing it as like a neutral space, I think helps you not take it personally, so you can figure out what to do from there, make smarter decisions.
Mm-hmm. It's a matter of, well, and that's the thing too, is when your inner gremlin is activated, if you do not take a step back and get a hold of, because if you let your thoughts just run rampant, or your emotions run rampant, like that's just going to consume your consciousness. So anytime that you are feeling, no one wants to feel rejected, but it's such a great spot for self-discovery. It's a catalyst for growth, because the thing is that acceptance is lovely. Okay. Like who doesn't, like I said, who doesn't want to be loved and cherished and told, but it's such a double. I prefer rejection in the beginning and then acceptance with that contentment. But then it's like a sandwich: reject,
Mm-hmm.
accept, because that's going to keep, like I said, that needle moving. And in my like, life is a gift. I want to accomplish great things. Look at what we've done here, with this podcast. Shout out. We keep getting amazing. I mean, you guys are downloading our episodes. You're loving the content. We are so appreciative. This is a labor of love, as we've said, really on Ryan's behalf. I'm gonna put your Venmo on my Instagram story and be like, please buy him
Okay.
coffee. No,
I'll
it's
take
true.
it. I'll take it.
Yeah.
I will take it.
It's true though. But it's, like,
I will accept.
yeah. That's the funny thing though, is that the more you lean into rejection, the more it's freeing. At no point did I give two hoots about, like, I knew this was going to be like, we were going to make magic here. But even if it was just a passion project for you and I, and something that we enjoyed, does that make sense? Like I knew, like, I had no fear of rejection with this. And if it was rejected, big deal. We were still going to make this.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think like leaning into rejection is good. Like that's a positive mindset. You're accepting rejection at that point, right? You're accepting the
Mm-hmm.
possibility of this or whatever. And I think that's helpful, and like it helps you eliminate the whole fear of rejection thing, which is like that's something that's been like scientifically studied. And it really does contribute to somebody like having a lack mindset, essentially, like not it's
Mm-hmm.
prohibiting them from having a growth mindset. And if you are faced with rejection and kind of like don't know how to deal with that, it's going to instill more of a fear of rejection in you, which is going to limit your growth potentials, right? You're not going to be going after as much.
You're going to be playing it safe.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're going to be content with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's interesting. But if, again, it's like, I think when you have that fear of rejection, that fear is like really going to stop you. And I feel like how then can you just come to that point of neutrality so you can be at peace with the potential of things not going your exact way, just giving up expectation of things, I think a little bit too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like to see both as neutral. I think that's like been a big practice for me lately. I mean, neutrality in general and non-attachment in general. I think like a word that's really come to mind with this is equanimity, which is like, it's like such an Eastern philosophy, but it really is about like maintaining a state of calmness and composure, especially like emotionally, so you're and mentally, so you're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with like all this crazy shit in life, even whether it's acceptance or rejection, but equanimity is the thing that I think balances these two sides of the coin so well. And it just helps you like have a better emotional response, and it literally serves to grow you spiritually. It's such a spiritual concept, especially in like Buddhism and Zen philosophies.
No, I think when life is handing you whatever, I mean, whatever, whether it's a blessing or a lesson, having that sense of calmness, like the way I react to things, I'm such an excitable person on my day to day, like I'm gonna pump you up. But when it like, so whether when someone gives me a gift, I'm always just so stunned that anyone would ever think of me. So people sometimes they don't get the reaction that they are expecting out of me, but I'm just like, you even thought about me to get me like an eraser? Like that's like, I'm so stunned. Like you thought about me to get me a card. Like that is so in my mind, I'm like that I'm just in this spot of peace. And also consequently, you've been around me when I've gotten some freaking horrific news. And the first thing I do is like, all right, well, I'm calm. Like I can handle this. I got this. And so to all your points that you've just made, to be in that spot, I never thought of it like that. But that is how I do deal with life and with things. I think though I could be more excitable when people do like nice things for me. But I'm just so shocked that anyone would ever like think to do anything for me,
Do you know that's so interesting? Because I was like trying to do something nice for someone that got rejected. And I feel like not getting the excitement, like, but then that's like my expectation, right? Like there's so many ways to do this, but like it does feel like, oh my God, like I was trying to do this really like the thoughtful, nice thing that I totally didn't need to do for you that I know you'd appreciate. And I'm like, I don't get like you're not even jumping for joy. Like what?
Yeah.
It's like interesting to like, because then you feel, I don't know, like one big thing is that I think about, I mean, this is a kind of different subject, but like just like the idea of giving, like and receiving. And if somebody has something to give you, like you're always supposed to just receive it. Like learn how to receive, because
unless it's herpes.
well, yeah, like we're talking about gifts, like good things. But like, because if you don't receive and know how to do that, then you cut off their ability to give in the future. So that's what I felt basically, was like this rejection of an appreciation. Like I didn't feel an appreciation for this thing, which again is like an expectation at some level, right, that I had. But it sort of like makes you feel like I shouldn't do those things in the future. Like,
well, it triggers that shame, like a shame or vulnerability hangover, where it's like, did I do too much? Did I?
right.
And I love surprising people. Like
Right.
I am the queen. I love surprise. I love planning surprise parties. It's been a hot minute since I did anything like that, but I enjoy surprising people. And so I've been on the receiving end, or I've been on the end where you just spoke about, where I put together a tremendous effort and organizing people and getting people to shut their fat mouths is not an easy task. And so, and my execution rate is flawless for surprise parties. To date, there have been 0 spoilers. But when you go through all this tremendous effort and then someone's like, it's like, I'm sorry. Like I'm sweating because we nearly missed. We had a miss. We nearly blew it. And it's it's interesting. But then when people when I'm on the receiving end, I'm stunned. I just start laughing 9 times out of 10 because my nervous system takes over.
That's a reaction, at least. I feel like you'd be a good person to surprise.
So, but I'm just always so stunned that, like I said, that anybody's taken the time to even think about me. So it's, giving and receiving. It is on par though with acceptance and rejection. I think they're cousins.
Yeah, they're totally cousins.
They're related. Yeah, they're related.
Yeah, well, because then it's also interesting because it's like if you're giving something when someone didn't ask for it, then you kind of are definitely putting yourself in that position to be rejected, right? But then there's also that other person's responsibility to but are you recognizing that someone's trying to do something for you right now? And it's like clearly out of like a admiration or respect or something. And how are you handling that rejection of them?
The level of self-awareness though that one must have, I think, and to be aware and to be in control of your emotions, and to we're getting there. I would say that people are getting there, thanks to, even though it's so annoying that we have so many people on TikTok and all these different platforms that are just spewing absolute garbage, there is also a consumption of some really good knowledge, like our Lord and Savior Brené Brown. So
Jesus.
I've been on such a deep dive though, because the retreat that's coming up that I'm doing is about guilt and shame. And that's what she studies: guilt, shame, and vulnerability. So I'm going to go to the wizard. Why would I go to someone's opinion? So that's why I've been dropping her so much. But then then vulnerability comes into the queue, which I am not a fan of the true definition of that word. Well, no, it's not vulnerability. I'm not a fan of it, the definition, but I'm really not a fan of the definition of humble. I think that instead of being humble, we could be gracious, because humble is the technical definition. It's essentially alluding to, putting yourself down or thinking that you're not worthy. And I think that worthiness is the issue that is one of the prime issues that humans have. If you think you're worthy, then you're going to be okay with being accepted or rejected. You're going to be okay with giving and receiving. And so go ahead, hit us with that hot knowledge. What's the Webster definition of humble?
Having or showing a modest or low estimate of one's own importance.
Yeah, fuck that.
A low estimate of your importance.
Double fuck that. So when people are like, you have to be humble, I'm like, no. You have to be gracious, kind, welcoming. There's so many other adjectives that we can use here, but humble, that pure definition, like I'm not humble, and I don't want anyone around me to be humble.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, again, some of that shame shit too, right? Like, I'm not important enough, and it's something that I feel like you say to someone to shame them: humble yourself.
Yeah. Or if someone has achieved a lot, this is where you hear it. And this is where, if someone has, achieved something insurmountable, or they have success, it's like the first thing you hear them say, it's like this default reaction: well, you got to stay humble. No, that is something that is programmed. You busted your ass to get to this spot. And, like you put in the work, the effort, the time, the sacrifice. But hey, but you got to be humble. Now, don't be braggadocious about it. But if you don't celebrate your achievements, who is? You've got to celebrate yourself first. And it's because of a fear of being rejected by your people that we say, oh, you got to be humble. You got to be humble. And I can't get down with it. I don't get down with it. Every time I hear a celebrity or someone or a client, anybody, any human being who's done something, immediately I'm like, nope, I don't expect that. I don't like that. Turn it around. Now, you don't want to be a flaming dickhead either and be like, oh, I'm the king of the world, and that's where I think there's no chill zone here.
I didn't even realize this, but it's so apropos that we're talking about this in Leo season of all times, right?
Oh, that's so true.
Isn't that so?
I know,
this is very Leo.
In the notes, you were like, I don't want to keep bringing this back to astrology. I'm like,
well,
I mean, but it's so on par.
No, yeah, I mean, you can do that, but I don't want to make the whole fucking conversation about astrology. Is what I mean. But yeah, it is. It's very, very on par. It really is. It's interesting.
And that it comes back to your spot about neutrality, though. So looping in. So it's fascinating to think if you sit here and simmer on these concepts, go to the beach or look at some water, smoke a doobie, have a glass of wine, whatever, and you're able to get out of that critical spot in your head, and you just kind of think on this, your brain can really go to some wild places. And I ask you, dear listeners, stop being humble, first of all, but when's the last time you celebrated yourself, your accomplishments? No matter how big or small. We don't do that enough. Nobody does.
No time for it.
Yeah.
No time for it. Move on to the next thing. There's always something more to do.
It's like, can you take 5 seconds to be like, damn, that was dope. Look at what I did. And also, can you celebrate other people, particularly if they've gotten something, or do you reject them? Do you reject their happiness?
Of course we don't celebrate other people. That's why we don't celebrate ourselves. Why would you celebrate yourself alone in your room? Because you know what I mean? No, yeah, of course. Nobody celebrates each other. It's terrible. Which is a level of acceptance, right? To feel celebrated by other people gives you that feeling of acceptance. I think that's important. But I don't actually feel okay, so this is where I think I had a mixed definition of some of this stuff. In that acceptance being more of a neutral space, I really was looking at when I really initially started deep diving into this, I was like, acceptance makes me feel so good. Rejection makes me feel so bad, right? Which it aren't neutral terms. That's very much applying incredibly opposite ends of the spectrum to these. But I was like, well, what about acceptance do I like? And I was like, well, it's that feeling of being loved by other people, having a sense of belonging and it feels nice to be accepted. And I'm like, wait. And then as I was researching so much more about this, I was realizing to be accepted does not mean you're loved. It doesn't mean you're liked. It means you exist. I see that you're here, and that's that. So to equate acceptance with someone respecting you and loving you and different. It's different. Acceptance is you can be here at this bar. We accept you walking into this bar. Do I want you to be at my table? Do I want you to talk to me?
You?
Yeah. Are you coming home with me? No. You
can be here. You can sip on some oxygen with me, but that's about it.
Right. So I feel it has to be somewhat neutral. And and it was there was one quote that I found that is what did it for me. This isn't even some profound quote or whatever, but it's where I realized I was putting such a positive spin on the notion of acceptance, because I saw a bunch of things like this where it basically said it's about the acceptance of rejection, I think, where it's like acceptance is not about surrendering your dreams. It's about making peace with your present while striving for a better future. And I was like, I read that and was just like, acceptance and surrendering dreams. Like, people think that, like, what, accepting like that I can't do something, like what, like that was
that's not
weird
even
to
that's
me.
not in my brains.
No, but that's like such a thing here of like basically saying accepting rejection, right? Like, you have to accept, like, oh, I've got this dream. I always think of the word acceptance as like an acceptance letter for college too. So that's always in my head with this, where it's like, okay, my dream like it was to go to Harvard, and you get the rejection letter. Okay, well then you got to surrender that dream, because you're not getting into fucking Harvard. You are not accepted at Harvard, you know? So it's like, what do you do? Like, and so I was like, that's so interesting. Like, I got rejected, so I need to accept that rejection. And acceptance in that instance isn't this super positive thing, but it could be. It could be, I guess, right? If you want it to
and
be.
rejection, I think, is also people associate it with failure. And so then depending on what your thought process is on failure, but like failure is just redirection, and you only really truly fail when you give up, like when you're just like, I'm done. And not in that moment when you're just like, like, no, then okay, then you failed at that. But that's also okay, because that's where we learn way more from the hard times than the good times. And no one wants to go through challenging times. It's not necessarily like, yes, this is great, I'm in hell and having a great time. But your good times do not, they're a reward for the effort, for what you've done, for what you put forth. And if you aren't pushing yourself, are you even really enjoying your quote unquote good times? But the bad times, the rough times, the tough times, that's what teaches you. I've learned more. What have I learned? I mean, when I look at my life, I'm grateful for the good times. I've had a blast, and I look at them as a reward for the things that I've overcome and accomplished. But it's, the lessons, the wisdom, what I'm able to help people with, it's because I looked this shit in the face and said, all right, let's go. Let's square up. It's time. It's just wild how they just like the outright, like these two words and then the connotations, and how they just like, because rejection is like on par with failure, but then when you start the juxtaposition and how you're able to just flip this to suit the narrative that you want in your head. I mean, you may agree with this, you may not.
Right? Which I think
that's okay.
Yeah. And I think to mold that, to do what you want with it, I think then you need to kind of be in that, I guess, equanimity or that neutral space so that you can.
Have you ever met like a soft person? And when I say not soft, somebody who they just exist. When you hear about and everyone's problems are unique to them, but they've either had such a sheltered or catered to life. And so, and throughout their childhood, and then they get to adulthood and you're just like, this is your problems. And that they make such a big deal of things and they're not aware. And it's just, it's hard. It's hard to connect with these sorts of people, because you're like, a missed nail appointment, the fact that you didn't get the purse that you wanted for your birthday, these are not real fucking problems.
Right.
I was about to be, like, these are not.
Yeah.
My foot in your ass for thinking that this is on par with someone's. It's okay to be disappointed, but to them, because they've had some sort of sheltered, catered to reality, and then. But that the level of suffering that goes on there, though, because as you get older, it's like no one wants to deal with this, pretty princess. Like, get the fuck out of here.
I reject your strife.
I had a client one time and years ago, and she was so upset that she didn't get a Louis for her birthday, and was just enraged and would not like. and separated from her husband. They got back together because she realized she had that. I mean, it was I couldn't even listen to it, and I couldn't fathom that you were going to leave your husband, and she did, over this, because if he loved and respected me, he would have gotten me this.
The human condition is so interesting. This is making me wonder, what do you think Brené Brown has to say about handbags?
I mean, in what context?
Just that, like,
in this, I think she
live a designer life.
I think that is the epitome of entitlement, self-centeredness. You know, I think that she would probably have some very strong wording for this lady.
I'd love to know, Brené, if you're listening.
Brené,
you
our
can
Lord
email
and
us.
Would you like to be on our podcast? Listen, I'm going to speak it into existence. She is going to come on our podcast one day.
We will embrace her rejection letter until we find a way. Until she accepts. Literally, I love it. Okay, and then and I think it's interesting, like, because you had said something before about like rejection being like a catalyst for creativity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is so true. You think of, like, there are a lot of people in history who have like been rejected by things and then used that to then like make their mark. Like Dr. Seuss was one of those people whose like first book was like totally denied by a bunch of publishers. People were like, what the fuck is this shit? You know, like Green Eggs and Ham. I don't know what book it was, but you know, and now look at his ass.
Michael Jordan. I mean, if anybody who's done anything great, he didn't make varsity or JV basketball team, cried the whole summer, went back, trained like a boss, greatest athlete of all time. One of them, hello, obsessed. I don't even like basketball, but I love that story.
I think that's perfect. It's perfectly simple. So like it really can be dope. But now here's another conundrum, right? So to be rejected really can be that thing that makes you be like, I'm gonna fucking do this. I'm gonna do this, you know, right? Like it's that thing that pushes against you that makes you like work harder, be better, so that you can actually make it happen now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, but aren't we not supposed to change ourselves for other people? Like, when we get that rejection, aren't we then choosing to better ourselves? In many cases, I think, if we face rejection from someone, if we say, I don't accept that rejection, isn't that you choosing to change yourself, better yourself maybe, but change yourself directly related to how someone else thought you were inadequate, right? So now you're like, I will be better because you didn't like me enough, essentially.
Well, I can see that, but you know,
I think I'm saying it to basically be like, if you're gonna do this, it has to be for you. Like,
exactly.
You gotta look at that.
Because so here's the, like, for instance, I'm training for my second show. When I got second and third place, which is an amazing placing for my first show, but I was like, fuck that. It wasn't for anybody else. So the judges rejected me, right? They picked another person. That lit a fire in me that was like, I am coming for this pro card. I am number one, period. Then I got sick. My body rejected me. You know, I got hospitalized. I had an NG tube. We were supposed to launch our podcast at that time, and both of our lives fell apart in the February of 2022. And I said, no. Yeah, like, okay, body, we're going to get. So that rejection from a people, place, or thing, I think we're putting too much stock into them. And it's like into those entities. And it's like, no, this is about me. And I'm overcoming this challenge. So I don't care who's saying no to me. I'm saying yes to me. And watch me now. I was listening to Tom Segura and Bert Kirshner talk on their podcast, and it's the comedy shows is that they sucked at. It's the stinkers that those are the ones where you come back and they hurt, they leave a mark where you're like, and then I was listening to what sports, whoever the quarterback is for the Kansas City Chiefs. Sorry, sports fans. I'm sure that you're not really sports people aren't listening.
Let me Google that.
But it's the losses that inspire you and get you going. It's not the wins. You got to be brave enough to say like, okay, I'm here. I'm ready to get rejected. And then that is what allows true acceptance of oneself.
Right. No, for sure. For sure. It is like, I think ultimately we're looking at the self-acceptance, like ultimately, but also acceptance of others. It's not just acceptance of self. I think it's acceptance of others, to see someone else's struggle or something. That's the meaning of namaste. Quite literally, is like not even just like how we end a goddamn yoga class or some bullshit. It literally means like, I see the divine in you. I'm accepting you here, right? Like I might not even know you, but it's just to like give you that level of acceptance, and you are here taking up this space, and I'm not rejecting you from that. Like, and probably because you yourself have had that experience of rejection and gone through that journey of self-acceptance, so you're going to be more accepting of other people, something like that. It's funny you mentioned the comedy thing too, because you know, I used to do acting. But like in like comedy, they have the whole like yes and exercise, which is like an improv exercise where you're just thrown weird shit and you have to kind of accept, like it's literally an exercise of acceptance in comedy where you're like, I'm accepting like what's being thrown my way and I'm just gonna roll with this weird ass scenario and keep it going, versus like comedy gets not funny when you're rejecting someone else's input or idea, right? Like that feedback you're getting. So you accept like the weird shit that's rolling your way, and then the comedy gets actually really funny because you're like going with this very far-fetched situation or something.
It takes big kahunas to put yourself in any sort of situation where I think most people play it safe. I think that most people play it safe. And that is why when you see someone, you know, loud and proud, getting it done, you're intrigued and you're inspired by that. Or you reject that because it makes you uncomfortable because you're not brave enough to put yourself in the ring. You can tell where my brain is. Because I'm like, let's get it done. Like I see people's potential when you're working with me. If you're a client of mine, if you're a friend of mine, I mean, like it's not especially a friend. Clients, you're paying me to do this. My friends, I'm like, what is the problem? We're gonna make the best of it. Like, what do you want? I'm sick of small talk. I want people. Human beings are incredible. We live in a time where anything is possible. You are the safest that you've ever been physically. So take some fucking chances. Like, let's get it done. You're just going to exist? You're just going to take up space and exist? Like, no.
And what a point of privilege to even be able to do that. Like, quite fucking frankly, as well.
Yeah.
Like, there are so many people who kind of don't have that luxury. Just being able to exist and not have to work harder and persevere and like accept a situation they might be in or something. Like you can reject work. Like look at you. Isn't that lovely? You know?
That's such a fascinating point, too. Yeah. To be at a point, because you are so right. I forget what the stat was, but it was something like it was an inconsequential number. Like if you have like $1,000 a month or something, you're doing like better than 80% of the world. Those numbers I've completely made up, but it's something along those lines where you're like, holy shit. I think what is the percentage? Like only X amount of people make $100,000 in the world, like a year. And that's the first thing. People have such an unrealistic expectation of like just money and privilege because you're constantly comparing yourselves to X, Y, and Z, therefore rejecting where you're at and then saying, well, why should I even start? Fuck that. And that shit's contagious too. So that's why, you know, like if you have someone in your group who's like that and you're wanting to, your people directly influence your success. The end.
They really do. No, you literally are so like spongy. in that way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just true. It's just freaking true. Good God. I don't know. I'm thinking about like some of these friends, one of whom literally just texted me, who I have not talked to in a minute. Like, who?
Mr. Man.
Oh, no. No. Just like a friend who, what I mean, like, whatever, like spread this weird rumor about me. I felt like I was in like middle school.
Oh, yes. I remember this.
The like rehab one. I was like,
Yeah. Don't respond to him because that's not your friend. That is not a friend. That person is jealous of you and is making up.
yeah, I'm gonna reject that
No,
text
you
right there.
reject him because something's wrong with him. He's
Well,
making
but
up lies.
I have been, right? Like I like, and I'm happier, you know, like you're rejecting these like shittier parts of yourself or whatever, or parts of the people. Going back to your main conversation, you are the people you surround yourself with. And so if like you're seeing that you're surrounding yourself with some dumb assholes who like want to make up blatant lies about you, like reject that, you
And
know,
then say
and
them
like
so convincingly that your close friends actually believed him.
all of them believed them. I know, dude. And now all of them I'm basically like no longer talking to. It's
Well,
just like
I
nuts.
guarantee you he will spin a victim narrative, like or some sort of apology. You can't, that's a snake. He showed his colors. Goodbye. Bye.
I know. I know.
I will walk to LA and have words with this individual.
Well, it's just you don't lie about something like that. Why do you lie about someone being in rehab? What? Sorry.
Because you have nothing better to talk about in your own life, and you got to make something up so crazy. And once again, I guarantee you, not that he would listen, but if he did, sir, you are pathetic.
So, but that, yeah, he won't be listening. So that's why, whatever. But like, that's why, like, no, it's so true. It's so true.
And there's also a jealousy thing. So jealousy and envy. Okay. Jealousy is passive. Jealousy is great because you'll never be jealous of something that you don't desire, right? So it can be a great indicator of something to work towards. But envy is active. So this motherfucker was jealous of you and then went to applied envy and took an active position. Was it because you're so captivating in a crowd and he couldn't get attention? Who knows?
Probably. Probably. Yeah, I accept that.
So then his main mission was to then say you were in rehab, right? So then that's a private matter. He then took this false information, but it was true, and you weren't ready to tell people. He took that away from you. You are a scumbag from A to Z. Get with me, bud, because you need some fucking help. I'm sorry, that pissed me the fuck off.
I know, it's nuts. It's fucking nuts.
There's no way in any realm that this was okay. There is not one. You are a fucking dirtbag.
I know. And to tell my best friend that and make him believe it, my best friend who adopted his son from rehab, like literally, like he's like used to work with rehab facilities. He's like, this is such a touchy thing for him. Why would you do that? Anyway, I mean, there's a little beside.
Go back to episode 2. Yeah, go back to episode 2 where we talk about addiction and your plan. And the thing is that when you make a plan, you typically stay on it. You might deviate a little bit, but when something is set in motion, you execute it.
Yeah, and like this also came about at like when I had been in like very sober. I mean, and quite frankly, I'm even more sober now. Like I have had like a great year and a half of like partying, but I was like sober for like a good month or 2 months or something, like essentially like not sober, but like in my standards, like I was not going out. I was working hard. I'm like, at this moment is when you want to make up this lie. I'm like not even out much. Like, what are you talking about?
And then he was so convincing that they had to get Leo, your brother, to validate that indeed you weren't in rehab.
Well, because he made up a lie saying that my brother was the one that told him this. I was like, now you're lying that my own brother has told you that I'm in rehab. Like, I'm just shocked. I'm just shocked. Whatever. Who cares? Nobody's gonna listen to this. None of them. Well, Leo will. Actually, he's been listening.
Shout out to Leo.
Leo.
Yeah. No. Well, so but that motherfucker rejected himself, which is why then he went to try and seek false acceptance from others. And also he was jealous, so he was trying to, kind of steal your spot. Seats taken.
One wanted me rejected by other people for some reason, right? Like, what is that? I don't know, whatever. But it fucked me up a little bit, like, because then I'm like not feeling accepted anymore by my friends. I'd like walk by the bar and see them all hanging out, and I'm like, I was not invited.
Yes.
Like,
Aw.
fuck, okay, like it's just whatever. Anyway, moving on to a slight different subject within this. The Japanese are dope. I just want to say that they have these two concepts about this essentially. Like, I mean, it's not necessarily just about this. I think it's bigger than this, but it really was like something that I came across when I was just like looking up things that I think are dope. So there's wabi sabi, which literally is like a philosophy that embraces the beauty of imperfection, impermanence, incompleteness. About like the natural cycle of growth and decay. So like both of these things being like two sides of the same coin almost, right? And I don't know, accepting imperfections, that sort of vibe.
In.
Yeah. And then there's this, like, I think within that, there's this specific art, like form or art aesthetic kind of theory or something, practice, I guess, that's called kintsugi, which I'm sure people have seen, but I just think it's a cool way to think about this. That's that art form where it's like you break this beautiful glass bowl or something, they will accept the broken pieces and then put it back together with like the silver or the gold, like,
yeah.
But then they find more beauty in the acceptance of the broken little pieces, and they literally will look at like those bowls that have the silver or the gold and all the cracks to seal them up as a more unique like celebration of like something's experience having lived or aged or gone through things. So I think that's really interesting. It made me also think not to go to astrology, clearly, seriously, but like it made me think of Saturn and Pisces, which we're not really talking about a whole lot, like in anything, because it's just going to be there for a couple years. But it really did make me think of that, because like one of the first things I was saying about this before I even moved in there was about like not like romanticizing your scars, but like wearing your scars proudly. That is such a thing with Saturn and Pisces. I feel like I'm going to own what I've been through and like that being a cooler part of you. I mean, it is you, it's your authentic self, right? And so to reject those little scars and your little stories, to reject the fact that all of my friends just believed that I was in rehab all of a sudden.
And then got mad. Then more people like got mad instead of being concerned, which once again missed the freaking mark. Because if your buddy is in rehab and didn't tell you, instead of getting angry, which anger is a secondary emotion, I'm sure Ryan's friends that you were all concerned or worried, but like, what the fuck? I'm not trying to go back to that, but it's just
no, I don't know, but it really is. I mean, it's, like you're like, I'm gonna accept that has happened and move on, like, you know what I mean, and like that's why I'm even talking about it right now. This was a minute ago now, but like I've accepted that's that, and those friends are not my friends anymore.
Yeah, well, it's funny that the instigator of this chaos texts you, in the midst of this podcast.
Literally, but that's literally why I thought of it. And all he texted me was like a cute video that him and I took together like a while back at a bar. I don't know, man. Like, you know what? Like, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change.
I accept that you're full of shit and I reject you in my life. Toodaloo.
Toodaloo.
Toodaloo. When you were talking about, what was that second concept that the Japanese had?
Kitsugi.
So my first thought was going to women and beauty standards and such, because I was listening to this podcast and I don't know who these fellas are, but they crack me up. And it was talking about like these dudes were like, I like cellulite, like I like the little pouch that your little tummy pouch, like, I like these things. I like your thin lips. I like, I like these idiosyncrasies. I know. Or these quirks, these unique things that you have, and all of, these beauty standards, you're changing yourselves to neuter yourselves of these things. And these are, the quirks. But the thing is, fellas, also, no one's talking about that. No one's telling that woman, like, I love your thighs. Like, I love your cellulite,
Right.
but
Right.
like, I love your thighs. Like, I love, like, touching someone's tummy and being like, oh, I love that. Like, you're beautiful. That's how you get. I love your fish lips. Which, by the way, if you listen to the last episode, Ryan gave me 4 great dates, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, I am picking. I did pick one, and my fish lips will be gone.
Yeah. Megan's gonna get her beauty treatment. Watch you just have this crazy reaction to it, though.
No, there's not going to be. I reject that statement.
I reject that statement. Good. Good. Okay, now let me throw you for like another little loop here, real quick.
Okay.
So as I'm like kind of like trying to find like interesting perspectives on this and like studies and my shit. I find this quote that I was like what?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm sitting here this whole time and we've been talking about it this whole time. It's like two sides of the same coin, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
What if there's a third little thing that plays into this?
Absolutely could.
Which I know, which is this quote from Van Chow, okay,
Uh-huh.
who says, if you are rejected, accepted, or ignored,
Uh-huh.
you have the power to decide how you want to react. And I was like, ignored. That's a total like, so now we got this little like triptych thing going on here.
Mm-hmm.
There's 3 things, which is true because to be accepted or rejected, when I was like really going in this, both of those inherently require some level of communication or feedback, acknowledgement, ignoring, to be ignored. Like at first I was like, well, isn't that just kind of like a level of rejection? But it's not, because rejection, you have to have been told something. To be ignored, whole different.
Well, I mean, I think that say with like ghosting, when you're ignored, that is like the shittiest form of rejection, because you're not even being told. Like, ghosting is such bullshit. Ignoring is such an interest. We've all been ignored, and we've all ignored people. And ignoring goes against human nature, because when you ignore someone, I have a friend, she would walk into a room sometimes and you wouldn't know that she was mad at you, first of all, but like, you would speak to her and she would not speak back, which is like the level of self-control that goes there. So she did it to me on one occasion. This is years ago, and I had seen her do it to other people. And it was this ironic power move, because it goes against human nature. It's one thing to ignore a call or a text message. When you are directly in front of someone and they are not acknowledging that you exist, that you are taking up this, spatial awareness, that it was, when it was done to me, I was like, oh, I guess she's pissed.
Yeah.
And went about my day. But I would see people melt down about it. And it was such a unique, the way she was able to go about this was, I mean, because it would fuck people up big time.
That I know. I almost view this as worse. I mean, it's literally like the same root word as ignorance, right? Like,
Yeah.
I do not know the existence of you, of this thing. Like, because you can't technically consider it to be a form of rejection, because it isn't, because it's a straight up, I'm not even acknowledging that you exist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think things can sink into like this repressed state.
Yeah. I mean, to ignore yourself or something, and then to ignore another person, you're ignoring the existence. That's a mind fuck. When someone ignores you, it triggers, you can be the most confident, self-assured person, it's still going to shake you. when you're expecting a text message, when you're expecting a response, when you've been in communication, whatever the case is, when all of a sudden it goes quiet on the other end, whether it's for a brief amount of time or for good, that it's so rude and it's so wrong. It shakes people to the core and can fundamentally change them. And so we've all done it. But if you are listening and still doing it, you need to fucking get right with the Lord, because I've watched people who really were cavalier with other people's emotions, and boy, does it not look like they are having fun now, because you will get checked, and you will get checked harder than anything that you have ever done, and it will be a culmination. And I got no respect for it. Like if you can't, it is so easy to send a text message. It's to me, that is a form of, unless you're being abused or something along those lines, and of course ignore. But to me, in the realm that I'm talking right now, that is terrorism. That is intentional emotional terrorism, because you are tearing somebody down to the studs because why? Either because you're not able to say something, but 9 times out of 10 you're trying to punish.
So true. And then what is that? Attribute power, control, play, like on your end, fucking power trip, make you feel better.
Make
you feel bigger.
It makes you get like that. I have that edge on you, and so, and then when you're in that spot, it's just, you're constantly trying to one up, and that's a mess. That's a mess. I will not engage. Eat a dick.
Eat a dick. Eat a dick. I love the conversation of one-uppers. I did a speech on it in college, actually. And because one-upping is like a phenomenon. Like, people are chronic one-uppers. And I like made fun of, like, Penelope from SNL. It was SNL, right? Yeah, it was Kristen Wiig's character. Where she was just like a chronic one-upper character. It's like, shit. Everybody go look up Penelope SNL. It's like the funniest fucking skits ever. But she would just one up everybody. I don't know. Anyway, that's all. That reminds me of, I have no real point with that. I just love the psychology of a one-upper, somebody, a thunder stealer. What in you needs to do that?
And I wonder, going back to jealousy and envy, because if you're one-upping, you are feeling some sort of way. So then you're probably jealous. So then it's like, oh, so now I'm going to go from jealousy to envy, and let me activate this.
Yeah. You're rejecting your own inadequacies.
Yeah. So true. I mean, meanwhile, let's say, like, my childhood best friend, Katie O'Neill, she is, well, her name's Kate Talbert now. She's Makeup by Kate. And she's so hilarious. She's super viral on TikTok and Instagram. Couldn't be. And so when she started to get this notoriety initially, of course I'm stoked for my friend, but then it was like, oh man, like, I'm putting out, like, all this effort into content. And so when you have that little inner gremlin activate, but I love this take on it that I've learned about, but I was like, no, this is a good thing. If I'm around people who are going viral for their passions, then I'm in that sync. I'm in that energetic flow. But it's okay to feel jealousy. That's a normal emotion. What it's not okay to do, that, like, if I were, instead of being like, dude, congratulations, that's awesome, which is, you should congratulate people on their success. If I was like, well, I'm going viral one day too, or trying to, no, so when you feel that little green alien of envy, or I'm not envy, jealousy, don't let it get to envy. Know that you are exactly where you need to be. You are on that similar frequency, and that it is only a matter of time if you continue to put in the work and hustle. So there's my, no one likes feeling jealousy. But those one-uppers where it's like, well, one time I did this. Okay.
Yeah, I think because it's like, it's really interesting, just to keep bringing it back to, like, I guess the like words that play this episode. Like, it's kind of like a rejection of, like, your own greatness. If you're jealous of somebody or something else, you're rejecting your own greatness, right? Which I feel like is interesting, because there's this whole thing that I was reading about this where it's like rejection leads to resentment. And that sucks because then you're gonna resent and that like in a resentful space is where you're gonna feel envious, where you're gonna pull those power moves over them and do all that shady, nasty, shisty shit. But like acceptance actually leads to something like forgiveness, which is also making me literally think like, like if I accept that that friend lied about me in that way, I could forgive. It doesn't mean I need to like.
Forgiveness does not mean reconnection, though. So you can forgive
Right,
him,
no.
but forgiveness does not mean reconnection. Yeah.
Right. No. Yeah. But like, I do think like there's that need to like, because I could easily have built even a resentment about that. Right. Like, and I did like a little bit for sure. But I can just accept that that was something that happened.
Next time you see him, I forgive you. Every time you see him, I forgive you.
I forgive you for what you did.
So patronizing. 12 years from now, I forgive you.
I just want to let you know I forgive you for what you did and who you are.
I forgive you for who you are. That is a mind fuck of a statement. If you say that to somebody at the end of a fight, I would be like, oh my God, what? If I heard that, if I heard that and it going down, I would be like, I don't even know. I'm not even in this fight and I cannot recover. And so if you said that you just give people a lethal weapon.
Yikes. Okay, well now let's have fun with it and say it after like a great exchange with someone too.
I forgive you for who you are. That's still, they'd be like, what are you talking about?
I'd be like, what? Ouch.
I forgive you. I forgive you for who you are, baby. It's I feel like I can't even think where I say wild stuff to my friends all the time. I can't even think where like I could say this and I can pull off some phrases. I think this is just a weapon. This is just a weapon of mass destruction.
Uh-oh. Use it carefully, please. I feel like in closing, I'd like to like say at least something on the power of acceptance, right? And I mean rejection, right, is the well, and just like almost like a little bit of homework for everybody. Go read, or I think they made it a movie. I didn't see this though. I think they made it a movie. The Velveteen Rabbit. Like that story is so good. And it is so about those feelings of rejection and acceptance. And like even way deeper, it's very spiritual. It's like
I love the Velveteen Rabbit growing up. My mom used to read it to me. Oh
yeah. I think like the harm of like rejection, it is what that shows in a big way. Like this, like rabbit doesn't get picked, I believe, at first, right? Like, and then like I think there was some other toy or something, and then the rabbit all of a sudden replaces the other toy. So the rabbit is now not being rejected, and then becomes the favorite of this like boy, right? But then real rabbits are realizing, oh, this is not a real rabbit. Like this is a fake rabbit, and so the rabbit feels rejected by this group of rabbits, and then tragedy strikes. I won't give it away for people who don't know, but the rabbit like tragedy strikes. But I think like it's like I love that because it just shows like you feel more real. Like that's like literally like the moral of that story is to be accepted. You feel more real. Like you feel like a person. So I think like that's a cool thing. Like it's sort of like the rejection of someone is like, or the rejection of the self is like a denial.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like you don't feel as real. You don't feel as human anymore.
When you judge someone for whatever or reject someone, that's also how you judge and reject yourself. I've loved this conversation.
Yay! Good. Me too. I did too. This one.
I have.
And Brené, I hope you loved it as well.
Brené, our Lord and Savior. Thank you for all your hard work and the joy you bring into this world.
I'm gonna start making a bunch of memes with Brené's face on them, and like we're gonna get our attention
Oh my
somehow.
God, yes. Let's do it like a campaign. Yeah, like
We should just
together.
like start writing fake quotes from Brené Brown.
No, we can't do that to my girl. We can't do that to her.
Maybe fake endorsements of our podcast from her.
Or maybe like Monet M and then R for you. Monet Brown.
Monet Brown. Monet Brown. Yes, done. Monet Brown. So check our Instagram for those memes, please.
But yeah, so till next time, guys. But really take this to heart. Let's see what you do with these topics and see how you can improve not only your life, but the lives of others. Because otherwise, what the hell are we doing? What the hell are we doing?
Exactly. And like fucking think deeper about some of this shit. You know, like when you really think about these concepts that are so ingrained in our human experience, like you can see how like you can just really, really fucking dive into it and start picking it apart and learn about yourself and other people in that process.
The whole point that we're here is to learn about yourselves and others in connection. You can't cuddle your money. You can't cuddle your bullshit. You can't take your nonsense with you into the next lifetime. So let's not do that.
Okay. I'm good.
Well, I accept you and I accept this podcast.
I accept you and I accept this podcast. Yes. All right. Well,
till next time.
Bye.
Bye.